Welcome to In Focus, Texas. I'm your host, Carla Leal. Cancer is the second leading cause of death in Texas, just behind heart disease. Breast, prostate, and colon cancer are some of the most common forms of this disease in our state. The Texas Department of Health and Human Services estimates close to 150,000 Texans will be diagnosed with a form of this disease this year. But Texas is at the forefront of the fight against cancer. World-class institutions focused on the latest cancer treatments and research call Texas home. The Texas legislature and Texas voters are also strong supporters of our state's efforts to cure cancer. Together, they approved the creation of the Cancer Prevention and Research Institute of Texas in 2007, and it's the largest state funder of cancer research in the nation. This week, we'll be joined by state agency leaders, researchers, and oncologists to explore the latest cancer trends and learn about the contributions the Lone Star State offers in the cancer fight. Since the work of the Cancer Prevention and Research Institute of Texas, also known as CPRIT, kicked off over 15 years ago, our state has solidified its commitment in the fight against cancer. To get insight on the cancer programs it supports and those results that they've accomplished over the years, the CPRIT's Chief Executive Officer, Kristen Doyle, is joining us today. Kristen, it's an honor to have you on In Focus, Texas. Thank you for stopping by.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be able to talk about CPRIT and the work that Texas is doing to fight cancer.
The legislature and Texas voters have supported the CPRIT's efforts over the years to prevent cancer. What are the CPRIT's pillars and the top accomplishments in this fight?
So CPRIT was created by the Texas legislature back in 2007, and we did have a statewide vote both in 2007 and again in 2019. So we're a $6 billion initiative. And at this point, we're about 15 years in. And so we've made more than 2,000 grants to research institutions, community organizations, and companies all across Texas that are all working not only to prevent cancer, but also to come up with innovative ways to detect that cancer early, to treat it, and to cure cancers.
And it's so impressive to see all of the areas that you are able to tap into. Tell us about childhood and young adult cancers. We know those are on the rise. Give us examples of projects that the CPRIT has invested in to fight these cancers that impact our young Texans.
Yeah, so, fortunately, childhood and adolescent cancers are rare cancers. But as you noted, they are on the rise. And, to date, CPRIT has invested nearly $500 million, so $500 million in research into these adolescent and childhood cancers, all across the state. At Texas Tech Health Science Center in Lubbock, Dr. Charles Reynolds is a preeminent expert in childhood cancer research, and he is focused on neuroblastoma research. So that's 8% of childhood cancer cases are neuroblastoma, and he has come up with some innovative treatments, that hopefully will help these children survive neuroblastoma.
Give us some examples of how these funds that CPRIT has impact Texans directly.
Sure. So one easy way is through our prevention work. We are able to spend up to 10% of our funds on cancer prevention services. So that's screenings, that's vaccinations, and that's education. And this is really critical because 40% of the cancer cases that we have are preventable with, easily modifiable behaviors. So, don't drink, don't smoke, lose weight. We do a lot in terms of screenings, so lung cancer, colorectal cancer, breast cancer, cervical cancer, all throughout Texas. And those screenings over the 15 years that we have been doing them have resulted in more than 50,000 cases of cancer and cancer precursors being detected, and detected early. And so when you are detecting cancer early, you are increasing the opportunities for survival. CPRIT also funds clinical trials. So these innovative treatments we are making available to Texans in Texas at the institutions across the state. Innovative treatments to address intractable cancers. Many times, cancer patients that are participating in clinical trials are doing so because there are no other treatments available on the market, or those treatments have failed them. So at this point, we've funded more than 350 cancer trials, and 60,000 people have participated in those.
Kristen, Doyle, we appreciate your time and all your insight.
Thank you very much.
A cancer diagnosis at any age can be scary. Imagine facing this challenge as a teen. That's what happened to a Texas high school athlete, Nolan Cernosek. Our Travis Recek has his inspiring story of resilience.
What are the lengths that you would go through to play the sport you love? For one New Braunfels junior, there's basically nothing that would keep him off the field.
What would you do to play? Would you leave the house before the sun rises, drive 3 hours for chemo treatments, and be back in time for practice?
And that's kind of what pushes me, like after chemo, like I could be doing more, I could be helping the team more.
Nolan Cernosek appreciates the chance just to be on a baseball field after what he's been through the past 2 years.
I was rounding third on a base hit, and then my femur just snapped. I didn't really know what was going on. I thought I got hit by the ball because I just felt a sharp pain in my right leg.
They're like, something's not right. It's all cloudy. And so they saw it cloudy. They find it a biopsy about 3 days later, and they're like, you have osteosarcoma.
A jolting cancer diagnosis to Nolan and his family. He would start chemo immediately.
It shocked me a lot because I felt really healthy, and I thought nothing could bring me down exactly.
It's pretty tough. I mean, there's still times every now and then I kind of wake up and go, is this real?
It's been very real and very challenging throughout the recovery process, but this year, Nolan was able to be back with the football team and is now a pitcher for the New Braunfels baseball team. He still gets chemo treatments in Houston 1 day a week, but doesn't miss practice on those days.
Life could always be worse. No matter how bad you think your life is, it could always be worse. And I'm lucky enough to do chemo and then come back out here on this great facility and just play with all my friends.
In New Braunfels, Travis Recek, Spectrum News.
What a powerful testimony. Coming up, we'll chat with a Texas oncologist to explore why more young adults are facing cancer diagnosis and what resources are available to them to fight back. And later, we'll learn about cancer breakthroughs taking place right here in Texas with a researcher from UT Southwestern. Stay with us. Welcome back. Let's put the spotlight on colon cancer, a disease the National Institutes of Health say it's becoming more and more common among young adults. NIH data shows 10 to 12% of diagnosed colorectal cancers are now happening in people under the age of 50. Our Blessing Iwachuku went to a North Texas hospital to find out how a doctor and a young patient are fighting this cancer together.
Despite the recommended screening age for colonoscopies being reduced from 50 to 45 years old, one North Texas doctor that I spoke with says she's seen patients as young as 19 years old. Making a stop at Texas Health Harris Methodist Hospital, Fort Worth has become the new normal for Abby Cantwell.
So the past 2 months I've been here a few times. I saw her before my surgery, and then I've seen her one time after.
The 28-year-old mom from Crowley, just south of Fort Worth, welcomed her second child in November. While adjusting to increasing from a family of 3 to 4, she says she was dealing with several health hurdles.
Started having symptoms about a year ago during my pregnancy. I had anemia, constipation.
The issues elevated to severe abdominal pain and blood in her stool. Those are the red flags that let her know the pregnancy and postpartum phase was not to blame. She got her first colonoscopy at 27 years old.
Okay, thanks.
And then her world turned upside down.
Hearing the words, "you have cancer," was devastating. That's the only word I can come up with to describe it. Nothing that I ever would have expected, at least at this age.
Surprisingly, her doctor says young adults being diagnosed with colon cancer is becoming the norm.
It's still going.
And I've had another patient, also younger than you, who was getting constipated and kind of ignoring it and came in through the emergency room. At least 3 people off the top of my head under the age of 30 in 5 years, I would say is not uncommon.
Dr. Bethany Malone has worked as a colorectal surgeon at Texas Health Fort Worth for the last 5 years. She believes the cause in the rise may be due to environmental exposure or something beyond people's control.
By the time we have the data to support changing when to do colonoscopies, we're going to have so many people fall through the cracks, and it's going to affect so many lives.
In 2018 and then again in 2021, the recommended age for colonoscopies dropped from 50 to 45 years old by the American Cancer Society and other health groups due to younger people being diagnosed. Dr. Malone warns getting a colonoscopy before 45.
Insurance only really completely covers screening colonoscopies. So anyone who has symptoms, that's then a diagnostic colonoscopy, and the out-of-pocket cost can be pretty significant.
Something Cantwell knows all too well.
It's just you never think it will be you until it is.
With the mass cut out of her colon, another scheduled colonoscopy in the works, and chemo shortly after, Cantwell caught the cancer early, giving her at least a fighting chance against this deadly disease. In Fort Worth, Blessing Iwuchukwu, Spectrum News.
To better understand the latest cancer trends and why these concerning diagnoses are on the rise among young adults, let's welcome oncologist Dr. Deborah Pat from Texas Oncology, Austin Central. Dr. Pat, it's a pleasure to have you on In Focus Texas. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell us a bit more about the latest trends regarding colon cancer. We just saw an example with the 28-year-old Texan. What other cancers also are becoming more common among young adults?
It's a great question. So we know cancer is a common diagnosis. 1 out of 2 men and 1 out of 3 women in their lifetime will be diagnosed with cancer. But we are observing some concerning trends around young adults, especially colorectal cancer. We observe that right now the incidence of cancer among young adults is going up at a rate of about 1% per year. And so it continues to rise. Because of this, national guidelines around screening colonoscopy changed. So a few years ago, they started recommending screening colonoscopy for average people without a family history of colorectal cancer at about 50, and now it's lowered to 45. We see some 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds even diagnosed with colorectal cancer, and so it's really important to have heightened awareness around this and to make sure to get evaluated if you have any signs or symptoms of the disease, and to make sure for all people that require screening that they get screened appropriately with colonoscopy.
And regarding other cancers that are common among young adults, what can you tell us?
There are other cancers that are increasing in their incidence among young adults. So uterine cancer is one, breast cancer is another. Kidney cancer is another. So, you know, the common cancers, of course, are more common, but in general, we're observing a trend towards an increased incidence of cancer in young adults. And you might beg the question, why is this happening? And we don't understand all the reasons of why it's happening, so there's still research that's being done. but some of it is because of diet and exercise, and those things can all be contributors, especially to colorectal cancer, but can be associated with other cancers as well.
And you mentioned that the screening for colon cancer has changed. What other changes in the medical field are happening to help young adults try and diagnose or prevent their cancer risk?
It's a great question. I would say first and foremost, if something is wrong, even if you're a young person, like being 28, you think nothing bad can happen to you. But if you have symptoms like blood in your stool, you need to seek the evaluation of your doctor and be evaluated appropriately. And then we understand now to sort of stratify screening differently. When we talk about screening recommendations, they're really for average individuals who don't have a strong family history of the disease, whereas people that do have a strong family history of the disease, like of breast cancer or colorectal cancer, might have a different earlier screening recommendation, and in addition could have genetic testing that might identify that in general they have a higher lifetime risk that could change the cadence of their testing for all of their life.
Tell us a bit more about the role that genetic testing plays in preventing cancers, and who should consider these tests. Are there any risks?
It's a great question. So I would say if you have a family history of cancer, you should talk to your doctor about genetic testing. It's important not just to have the testing, but to also have follow-up counseling that's appropriate. And I say that because someone who has a strong family history and a negative genetic test, we might still put on a heightened screening protocol. And someone who has a minimal family history and a positive genetic test, we might also put on a heightened screening protocol. So it's important that those tests are interpreted by your doctor. And I will say at Texas Oncology, we have a robust genetic risk evaluation and testing program for that very purpose, because people who get tested in a silo sometimes don't manage their risk appropriately because they don't know exactly what to do with that information.
Dr. Pat, we thank you for spending this time with us.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Up next, we'll focus on the cancer research UT Southwestern is leading and how it's helping change the lives of cancer patients in Texas and beyond. Keep it here. We're back. Earlier in the show, we learned about the significant investments in cancer research the CPRIT agency makes on behalf of Texans to explore the progress academic institutions and researchers are building with these funds. Dr. Tian Zhang from UT Southwestern's Medical Center is joining us today. Dr. Zhang, it's great to have you on In Focus Texas. Thanks for connecting with us.
A true pleasure to be with you today to highlight some of our cancer centers' collaborations with CPRIT.
Well, CPRIT recently distributed more than $93 million in cancer research and prevention across the state, and UT Southwestern got some of those funds. Give us examples of the academic research that is in the works at UT Southwestern that's focused on cancer treatments.
Sure. UT Southwestern and the Simmons Comprehensive Cancer Center and our institution's strong history of basic science, we've really had a great track record of bringing funds from CPRIT to Dallas. There were 4 awarded this cycle in May and 11 awarded in February of 2025. So just so far this year, we've 15 grants awarded to UT Southwestern and the Simmons Comprehensive Cancer Center. I'll tell you about a couple that were just awarded in May. One was from my colleague and friend, Dr. Catherine O'Donnell Mendel. She received a CPRIT grant called Cellular Surfaceome in Treatment-Resistant Lung Cancer. Her lab is really focused on studying what happens on the cell surface as patients develop resistance to these types of treatments. Another one of the investigators who recently received a CPRIT grant for UT Southwestern, Dr. Shin. She's in the Children's Medical Center. She's really focused on thinking about the cholesterol-rich environment in the brain and how to decrease those cholesterol availability in order to decrease glioblastoma tumor growth. On the cancer cell imaging core, from Dr. Denuser, who's the chair of the Lyda Hill Department of Bioinformatics. He is running a cancer cell imaging core that really will bring really microscopic imaging capabilities to looking at cell-cell interactions as well as the structure of each cancer cell.
You have directly benefited from these funds in the past as well when you received a CPRIT Scholar grant. What did that opportunity represent to you? Tell us about your focus and what was accomplished through your research.
I moved from North Carolina in 2021, and this grant was certainly a large part of that recruitment and move to UT Southwestern. It represented a lot of opportunity for me, and my work really centers around bringing clinical trials to our patients in Dallas and North Texas catchment area for the Simmons Comprehensive Cancer Center. And I think through doing the work that I do, I am able to better help other accomplish their clinical trial activation and enrollment targets.
Why are clinical trials important when it comes to cancer care, and how soon are some of these treatments available to Texans?
I do think that clinical trials are so important for the treatment and strategies for our patients with cancer. Every approved therapy started as a clinical trial, from looking at safety in phase 1 settings to efficacy in a specific disease population in phase 2 to then randomized against a standard of care treatment in phase 3. So I think those terms are really important for folks to understand as they're considering a clinical trial. And, in solid tumors that I treat, there are somewhat limited lines of treatment that are proven effective for metastatic disease. And so clinical trials represent the potential for another effective treatment regimen and prolonged outcomes to cancer progression and overall survival for our patients.
Dr. Yang, we appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that'll do it for this week's In Focus Texas. I'm Carla Leal. Thanks for joining us to learn more about what Texas is doing to fight cancer. Get out there and make a difference. See you next time.